power trio that adds a +1.
As a +1, there you go.
Folks, this was accidental. Right now, we're going to go to a power trio who added a member or multiple members. In the case of Genesis, it would have added Daryl Sturmer on bass. I can't remember who else they brought in. But
Chester Thompson, but only live,
Chester,
not
you.
on album.
Yeah, just live, exactly, just live.
Yeah.
But we're going to go to that. Someone might bring that up later. I don't know. But Dan, we're going to go. Actually, I have a feeling I know where you're going with this, Dan. But go ahead and enlighten us with your power trio who added someone to take them to a new level.
So mine is, I did think of one earlier that I forgot to write down, and now I can't remember what it is, but it might come to me, so hold on. So adding as a fourth member, this one's sort of a gray area, but I'm going to go with it. On several albums, especially starting with 2112, Rush included their cover artist, Hugh Syme, to play keyboards on at least one song per album for several albums, starting with 2112. So they didn't really add a fourth member, but they had that's the first guest, not the only, but the first guest musician they had. They also subsequently had Ben Mink of FM play electric violin on a Signals album song, and they had Amy Mann play on Time Stand Still on the Hold Your Fire album. But Hugh Syme appeared many times on keyboards or synthesizers for a few albums in a row. So that's my number one thought on that. If I think of the other one who added a member, I'll bring that up.
I like it. There's wrinkles within that. I dig it.
It's kind of a cheat, but it's legit, I think. I say it is, so it is.
Well, it's a band you brought up earlier. It's one of your favorite power trios. I also will be bringing one of my honorable mentions a little bit later. So you're not alone in just that slight wrinkle.
And I have a couple other honorable mentions I'll bring up too.
Oh, well, no, we're on you right now. Give us some of your honorable mentions, man.
Okay, so this band did not start. This goes backwards. This band did not start out as a trio, but ended up as a trio. They only put out 2 studio albums. The first album included the amazing, incomparable, no one sounds like him, Bill Bruford on drums, Alan Holdsworth on guitar, Eddie Jobson on electric violin and keyboards, and the amazing John Wetton on lead vocals and bass as the band UK. But then Alan and Bill left. They did not replace Alan. They brought Terry Bozzio in on drums, so that formed the Prague trio of John, Eddie, and Terry, and that comprised of the second UK album called Danger Money and their live album called Night After Night, and then they were done. But those 3 albums I think the best short-lived band ever. So good, so prog, so much there, so much depth. And so there's that. And the other huge honorable mention has got to be Primus with Tim Alexander, the most recently retired Tim Alexander on drums. We're talking to John Hoffman, their newly found drummer, as in a few days ago, to come on Drum Talk TV to talk to us. But I saw Primus as the last band that ever opened for Rush on the, I think, Power Windows tour was the last tour they had an opening band, and it was Primus, and they were mind-blowing. Plus, Les Claypool doing the musical soundtrack to South Park. So what else can you say about them, right?
Yeah.
So, Power Windows, my favorite Rush album. And I realize it's blasphemy to people who are the Prague 2112 people, but I like the synthesizer years.
And one more quick one. Honorable mention, Robin Trower with Bill Lorden on drums and James Dewar on bass and vocals, and any configuration of any trio that's played with Jeff Beck, Bogart, and Appice, the Jeff Beck band. There's so many amazing trios.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when you mentioned Bozzio's name earlier, the Guitar Shop album in the late 80s with Beck, Bozzio, and Hyams.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so much music out there for people to discover that aren't mainstream, that don't get played on the radio. And that's why shows like yours are so important, so people can broaden their horizons, whether they're musicians or just casual or avid music fans. I mean, just the thought of the Beastie Boys that Jim brought up and just everything everybody's brought up is making me want to go spend more of my kids and grandkids' inheritance on albums.
That's an
Here's
investment,
the thing:
man.
the joy of the internet. A lot of it, you can just go watch it on YouTube. But yeah,
But I
But
do
yeah,
believe in purchasing and supporting the artist.
there you go. Absolutely. There you go.
You get a shiny collection to show off to people.
You sample on Spotify or any of the audio streamers. You sample there or YouTube, and then you go buy it.
There you go.
It's the modern radio station.
There you go.
All right, so Marty, now over to you for your +1.
All right. So this is I have a couple of honorable mentions also, and I think we talked about it's all over the place. So maybe they didn't add a fourth, maybe they replaced somebody or whatever. But my first honorable mention is Hanson. They added a fourth member. Anybody know who it was?
I do not.
It was Herschel Goldstein.
It was David Spade. MTV Awards. David
Oh,
Spade came out as the fourth Hanson brother. Anyway, in all seriousness,
Was it the Hanson brothers from Slapshot?
no, opposite of that.
That would have been another power trio.
oh my God,
so-
that's hilarious.
Well, yeah. And my second honorable mention is also slapsticky. Spinal Tap. How many times they replaced the drummer?
But they were not a power trio. The Thamesmen, the folk group was, but you also had Ian, or I'm sorry, you had Vic on the keyboards, and then you had Phil and the drummer. But there were four pieces of the drummer.
The reason that they're a trio to me is because the drummer was always getting killed and he was never a fixture.
But don't forget Vic, because Vic was the one who had the motto, having a good time all the time. Very crucial member of that band, because he was able to double the bass down when Nigel left.
And so my pick is, I'm not going to say much about it, but Crosby, Stills, and Nash, when they added Neil Young, it changed the band. They were really good before.
That's a great take.
It's
That's
my dad's music, but it really good before. I grew up on it. And then when they brought Neil Young in, they turned into more of a rock band. I mean, he brought that more rock and roll sensibility, and he was playing leads. You heard leads on Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young album, which I hadn't heard that really before much. And so really, really great band. And they added a guy who was already established, Sammy Hagar-esque. He was already an established guy. Came in, and I don't know if they got better but they got different for sure. So there is my +1. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
And 4 Dead in Ohio.
Yeah. And also fuck Neil Young.
On that note, because I can never bring it up enough, I already had respect for I blank on his name now, Glenn Fry, but Glenn and Neil had this feud going back and forth because Neil went after them for being selling out and just having corporate sponsors on the tour. And he's like, yeah, I'd rather have corporate sponsors and take that money than release a crappy demo album every 5 months and try and sell that to my fans. So
a deep cut shot.
Respect to Glenn for not knocking down Neil for just releasing what amounts to demos. But anyway, we're not going to slag on the hippies tonight because that's a show unto itself. Jim, we're going to skip up to you for your +1, including
It's old for me.
any mentions within it.
Yep. Okay. So my +1 is, we've already talked about this band a couple of times, but I really can't think of anybody else that deserves the spot more, and that's the Police. So this is probably not new trivia to you guys because you know this stuff a lot more than I do, but the Police, their original guitarist was a fellow named Henry Padovani, and they had him for a couple of years. And what was that, Eric?
Oui, Henri Padovani. Oui.
Yeah, that's it. So they had him for a couple of years, and then they hired on Andy Summers as a fourth because Sting really couldn't really didn't want to have to replace Henry, but Andy just clicked better with the band. He had a better sound. Everything they liked everything about him better. So eventually he replaced Henry and became numero tres, and that's when the band really found its sound in the late 70s and really clicked, and everything kind of followed from there. So the Police that we know and love really kind of came about because of that change. So that's my pick.
Whatever happened to that band? Did they do anything?
Couple albums here and there.
Yeah.
Some ubiquitous tune, Every Breath You Take. I think that was a couple people heard that one.
I feel like there's this thing hanging over me. I feel like there's another big one that we haven't mentioned. I just can't think of. That's more of in the classic genre. I just can't think of who it is.
Well, I very quickly need to. I was reminded by another Stuart Copeland band that it was, well, not so much a power trio, but three people. Animal Logic, an album that came out in the late '80s, early '90s, well, probably early '90s. But Animal Logic and Animal Logic 2, Stuart Copeland, Stanley Clarke on bass, and Deborah Holland on vocals. And those those two albums were just, for lack of it, beautiful. Just mesmerizing. Just Deborah Holland's vocals. Stuart and Stanley locking in as a rhythm section. You got great drummer, great bass player. Shit. Animal Logic, just quick. That's another honorable mention for me. But for my plus one, I brought them up earlier in my honorable mentions. That would be Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. And they did their first two albums, Texas Flood and Couldn't Stand the Weather. And then they had their live album, still as a three-piece. And maybe Carnegie at Hall came out later as a three-piece. But then when they were recording Soul to Soul, Stevie, in his messed up, drug-addled, whatever you want to call it, he felt he could be a better guitarist and vocalist if he had somebody to help like fill out the sound more. And they brought in Reese Winans on keyboard, and Double Trouble at that point just, I think, went to a new level. And then they only had one more studio album with that lineup, and just but. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble adding Reese Winans, I think that opened Stevie Ray up just like he wanted, better as a vocalist, allowed him to spread more as a guitarist, and that's my plus one.
That's excellent. That's new to me, and I like Stevie Ray Vaughan. But of course, Eric comes at you with all the info.
As we know, folks, and Dan, I'm looking at the time on this show. We're closing in on 90 minutes, and you brought something up.
We're like halfway there.
I having you on this show, it allows me to geek out a little bit more than I usually do with music.
Likewise.
And, I have so much fun when you're here, and just talking. And I mean, me, Jim, and Marty, we're already big music dudes. So having another music dude in here just takes it. It's the power trio that adds a plus one.
As a plus one, there you go.
Folks, this was accidental. My mind is fucking blown. Accidental awesomeness.
No, this has been so cool. And I mean, the things all three of you brought up were like just epiphany after epiphany after epiphany. And we could probably, just go on, and others would come to us. I had one a moment ago. Who was it? It was I got one for you. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the names, but
the Police.
When I saw both tours of John Paul Jones's two solo albums as a trio, mind blown. John Paul Jones on bass, slide guitar, and keyboards with his drummer, and who played a four-piece, and the third player played just the stick, the Chapman stick. Oh my God, both albums and both tours were amazing, just mind-blowing. And I saw them both at relatively small venues. The first tour for the album Zuma was at the once West Hollywood House of Blues.
Okay.
And then I saw them open for King Crimson's Thrack tour at the Universal Amphitheater.
Oh shit.
just so good. But the cool thing was John Paul Jones, first time in public since Led Zeppelin. Lights are off. You see flashlights leading guys in the dark onto the stage. You have no idea what's going to come on stage. And then John Paul plugs in his bass, and the pickups and the fretboard dots all light up, and everyone goes, whoa! And then the lights go on, and he starts with the first song on the album with an 8-string bass, finger picking it. And then one of the songs he played, I'm losing my shit here. This is me losing my shit in action. He played an instrumental version of Black Dog and played the vocals on the slide guitar while the stick player played the bass and guitar player on the stick. It was amazing because John Paul wrote that song.
Right. Yeah.
It was just such an amazing show. Get the album Zuma, put it on. No hashish or acid required.
And I'm
not discouraged, but not required.
I'm glad you brought up John Paul Jones because I almost brought them up as an honorable mention, so I will right now. Them Crooked Vultures.
Yeah. Oh, that's another great one.
With Dave Grohl and Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. So yeah, I mean, there's John Paul Jones again, bringing another power trio to the fore. Yeah,
and that was produced by Herschel Goldstein of Lock Up Your Bagels that did the live album Schmear. Wait, what?
God damn it, you bastards! What? Oh my God, Dan Schinder, so much fun having you on this show. We got to have you back real soon, folks. Be sure you check out Dan over at Drum Talk TV, but more importantly, check it out. Get on their membership site, Drum Talk TV Brilliance.
Oh, and I got a special code for everybody. If that's okay.
Codes. We like codes.
Yeah.
And, hang on a second. I will be able to edit this on the fly, so I'll flash it up there for people, and I'm going to put it on there.
I love for everyone, all of your followers, to come take not just a sip, maybe a beer bong's worth of a test drive of our membership site by using DTTV free. And then number 3, I'll put it in the private chat and you can just copy it, Eric. At checkout at drumtalktvbrilliance.com, that'll give you 3 months of our premium membership for fan Q&As with big artists, producers, and record execs, our live stream game shows twice a month, our drumming challenges, whether you're a drumming that wants to participate or a music fan that wants to vote. We've got live stream concerts put on especially for our membership site, and oodles, that's a technical term of quantity, oodles of other fun stuff for music fans. And it's drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Use DTTV free 3 at checkout, and there you go. Lots of fun.
Check out that ticker right now, folks. And I will, for those of us who are just listening,
there you go.
To drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Use DTTV free 3 at checkout for cool stuff beyond your wildest expectations.
Win prizes at the game shows, music trivia, just guessing.
You will win prizes on the trivia unless I finally get my monkey ass not doing anything that night. I will beat your asses in any trivia. Marty, Jim,
you guys would crush it. You guys know so much about music that you would raise the bar for others to aspire to. You guys should come do that.
Wait, there's a bar, and now I'm
we
have water.
Hey, Marty, what do we like to have at the bar?
Whiskey.
You don't work for Drum Talk TV, so you're eligible to win. So there you go.
Oh my gosh, Dan Schinder. Oh, so much fun. I have nothing left in the glass or the cup, but I will still raise it to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. Jim, Marty. I guess I did have a little bit left in there. God bless the red stack from Jim Beam. Thank you everyone for watching and or listening here on All Over the Place. We'll be back. And in the words of the almighty Cream, as mentioned by Dan earlier, goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Jim, give us a bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care, everyone. We'll be back real soon on All Over the Place.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.